Hi everybody, we're continuing on with chapter 32.3, this middle passive of consonant stem verbs. So we'd gone over this chart in the last lesson, but I wanted to kind of give you a reason for why we even bothered with all of that. Let's take one example and then we'll kind of go through and revisit the chart. Let's talk about the verb, and let me give you it in its present tense form, the first principal part, grapho, to write. Appropriate since we're writing all this out. We've already seen with grapho, if we're going to go into the second principal part, so this is one, this is our present active. If we're going to do our future, we're going to do what we always did, graph plus a sigma and then the personal ending. But we remember that that phi plus sigma, or phi plus sigma, would become something else. It would become a psi. So we'd get grapso, and that was our future. And the same thing would happen in our aorist, where we'd add on the past indicative augment, have the rest of the verb, and then we'd want to add sigma alpha on for a weak aorist, but that sigma would interact with the phi, and we'd get a psi instead, egrapsa. This is exactly what we're having now in our fourth principal part, gegrapha. So why is it ending in a phi? First of all, well, this is a mark then that we're dealing with a strong perfect. And again, the personal endings are just the same as the weak perfect here. Alpha, alpha, sigma, epsilon, with a new movable, then amen, ate, and asi. But this is all in the active. These are the I have written, you have written, he, she, it has written. This is the active I have written form. And this poses no problems because all of our endings, a, as, en, amen, ate, asi, all begin with vowels. Great. Well, now let's replace these active endings, I have written, with passive endings. And this isn't going to make too much sense semantically, but I have been written. So you could say, maybe we're talking about a story. I've been written about in books. There, that kind of makes sense. So what are our primary tense, personal endings, in the perfect? Well, those are my, psi, tai, we've just seen these, and then metha, sthe, sorry, that's a sigma, not an alpha, sthe, and ntai. Great. So we have these endings, but now we're supposed to put these onto the end of this verb, the stem that we had, gegraph. So gegraphmai, there's no reason why you couldn't pronounce that, but Greeks didn't like that sound combination, a phi followed by a mu, and they had rules to deal with it. That's what these rules were. When we have a phi followed by an m, or a mu, we're going to get a double mu. When we have a phi followed by a sigma, we'll get a psi, or psi. A phi followed by a ta, we'll get a p-ta. We've seen this throughout now, and that's exactly what we're going to need to apply here. So let's do I have been written, you have been written, he, she, it has been written. We're going to do the strong perfect passive endings of this. So let's erase all of this and start writing out our stems. So this is going to get repetitive, but that's fine. Gegraph, 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 and then over here, gegraph, gegraph. I'll try to keep those endings visible at least until we get over there. Gegraph. So then we want to add my, but we know that phi and mu won't necessarily play well together. We go up to consult the chart and we say, ah yes, double mu. So we're going to erase the phi because that's gotten eaten by the mu's, and then gegramai. And then you can see, well, this is where we get our word grammar from, right? With a double M right there. This is the stem, the things having been written, grammar. So now we can do it with a psi. So psi following a phi, this we've already had. This is exactly what we had in the future. In the aorist of grapho, we're going to have grapsai. So gegrapsai, you have been written. And then in the plural, we're going to be adding a tie. And remember that the phi is going to lose its aspiration and become a p. So gegraptai. All right. So in the plural, gegrafmetha, again, the phi is going to behave just like it did in the first person singular and become a mu. So gegrametha. And then, so we have been written. Now in the plural, grafstha, what's going to happen is the phi eats the sigma, and we end up with ftha. So Grassmann's law, dissimilation of aspirates, does not apply here. We get this, as we've seen already in the sixth principle part, phi followed by theta immediately. Now this poses problems. Let me put an asterisk there because this is not a real word. Note that we didn't have anything for new or new ta in this chart. This consonant cluster, which now puts three consonants together with the phi included, is too much for the Greeks to handle. They've got a different plan of how to deal with these things. And this is going to involve us looking slightly ahead to participles. So I'm not going to talk about the participles until a future video. You can go ahead and see what I've said there. Maybe pause right now if you'd like to do that. But the idea is that they're just going to use the participial form rather than any kind of personal ending. This is much more of what Greek or what English tends to do with these different tenses. So we're going to take our passive participle, gegramenoi. And why is it oi? Well, this is a second declension participle, and we're going to give it masculine plural. This is chauvinistic. Again, I've said this 1,000 times now. The Greek grammarians of old put first person first. You know, they were all about themselves. They were also all about men. You're never going to see neuter or feminine things here. Neuter would probably be the fairest, right? Because it's not neither he nor she, but they use they in the masculine plural here. And then, of course, we'll have a plural third-person verb, form of the verb to be asin. So I'm going to accent it right there because the accent's always going to fall on this syllable here. So because this is a two-syllable, a disyllabic, enclitic, this is where we're going to get the accent on the third-person plural. But this gets more complicated than we really have time for here. But the important thing for this consonant cluster is in the first person and second person, singular and plural, and the third person, singular. This is where we're actually dealing with these. Otherwise, we're going to see these, what we call periphrastic forms, those that talk around, literally, the problem that this doesn't work in Greek. They don't have a way to combine phi plus new ta, so we're going to go to this other periphrastic form. So that was good. We did that with the phi. Let's do it now, following Shelmerdine, with the verb for persuading, patho. So in our, remember patho is one of these verbs that can take it has two different fourth principle parts. We've got the first, which is pepeka, so that's weak, which was I have persuaded. But if we wanted to talk about the second form, the kind of other, less regular, I suppose, but has a slightly different meaning, was pepoitha, which is I trust. So now here we have a theta ending rather than a phi ending. So what was a theta? Well, that was an aspirated dental, right? Because we had ta, and then the voiced delta, and then theta. So let's go back up, see our chart, and we're say, we're going to be dealing with this. When we add a mu, we get a sigma mu. When we add a sigma, we just get a plain old sigma. When we add a ta, we're going to get a sigma tau. And when we add a sigma theta, we're just going to keep that sigma theta. So sm, s, st, and st, this is what we're going to get with our papoitha. So let's write it out, at least the stem, in all the persons. So papoith, promise my handwriting will get better. My little tablet's so small, it's really hard to do this. If I could just be writing on my screen, it would be so much easier. But you don't care, you just say, Al, get a nicer thing, you're wasting our time. And I say, well, I'm kind of wasting my own time, but I'm happy to spread love of Greek, because this stuff is fun, however infuriating it might be. And then, of course, we can add what our endings should be. My, psi, tai, metha, sthe, and untai. And remember, this untai is going to drop away because we're going to use a participial form, which in this case is pepes, menoi, and then again ac. And because the accent is always going to be on this epsilon in the third person plural, we're always going to have that second accent on the enclitic. All right, so we've done that. Forget about that. Why am I don't need to scratch it out. I can erase. I've got all these powers. All right, so theta plus mu. Well, we just saw it, but let's remind ourselves. Theta plus mu equals sigma mu. So we're not going to get papoimai. We're going to get papoismai. And then if you were just paying attention, that kind of makes sense why we have a sigma here, because we added the menos, passive participial ending, onto the theta, and it became a sigma mu, just as we had here. But that's ahead of the game. Theta plus sigma, the theta just takes over, or sigma just takes over, so we get papoisai. Theta plus tau, what do we have over there? That we had a sigma pop in almost out of nowhere, but note that that precedes the tau, so papoisthai. So papoismai, papoisai, papoisthai. All those accents over there. Now in the plural metha, well, we just have it over here, we're going to get a sigma metha, so, or sigma mu. So papoismetha. Theta before sigma theta, the first theta drops out, so we have pepoistha, and then again pepes menoi asin. That was how we did it. So now we've done it with a phi and a theta, but we could do the exact same thing. So we've crossed these two off our chart, but any of these endings that we see, tau, beta, chi, oh, I'm sorry, in doing this chart, I forgot to remove these things. So if you were consulting this, I did a bad copy-paste job. These are all deltas. I guess I should get, I don't have black as an available color. Let me just scratch these out the best I can. These are deltas because these are all dentals, right? And then for these gutturals, again, these shouldn't be betas, they should be gammas. So forget all these. Sorry, that's my bad for copying and pasting this first row throughout. So we have pi, or p, beta, phi, tau, delta, theta, kappa, gamma, chi. These are the different consonant stems. We've seen just two of them. All of them are going to work the exact same way. You can apply this algorithm and move forward and be able to do anything you really want. And then also, I've been giving you our primary endings of my, psi, tai, but when you get into the secondary for the pluperfect, right, with main, saw, ta, and again it's going to be metha, sthe, and then in the plural onta, the plural onta is going to fall away. We're going to have a different pluperfect form here, but then we're going to have the same rules. Pepois main, pepois sol, pepois tai. It's going to be, or ta, pepois ta. It's going to be easy to follow along with these same endings. They don't always need to be primary. They can be secondary as well. So that sees us through all now of chapter 32.3. It was quite a bit to cover. In 32.4, when we move on to that, we're getting to the participles, so we'll actually be able to figure out how to form those third-person plurals that right now our rules just simply do not allow for. See you then.